Hey, welcome back to Living Richardson. I'm your host, Sam Richardson. Today I'm going to open up about something incredibly difficult to talk about. If you've been following along on my social media or listening to the podcast, you know I've started opening up about the defamation lawsuit my former neighbors filed against my husband and I. I thought that was the hardest part, but honestly, it's only one piece of a much larger puzzle, one that has its roots in trauma and loss, and in the ways I've been forced to protect my family, sometimes at the cost of my own mental health. Today, I'm going to take you deeper into my story, sharing how the loss of my daughter Cadence and living with CPTSD has shaped everything I did during the lawsuit. I want you to understand that this wasn't just about fighting back against false accusations. For me, it was about protecting the children I have now, because after losing Cadence, the fear of losing anyone else was too overwhelming to even think about. So let's begin. Complex post-traumatic stress disorder, CPTSD, is what happens when you experience long-term repeated trauma that makes you feel powerless, stuck. It rewires your brain, making you constantly hyper-aware of potential threats, often when there aren't any. For me, it meant during the lawsuit, everything felt like it was attacking not just me, but my family's safety. CPTSD makes you live in survival mode. My brain was always asking, what if something happens? What if I don't fight hard enough? It was constantly on alert, in a constant sense of danger, even though nothing physically may have been happening. Losing a child breaks something inside of you that never fully heals. It's like walking around with a wound that won't close. And with CPTSD, that wound never stops healing. It just hides itself for a while, and then something comes along and triggers it open. When the lawsuit started, my CPTSD flared in ways I wasn't prepared for. I didn't actually know that I fully had CPTSD. This was just at the beginning of understanding my ADHD and OCD diagnosis. And during this process is when I was also diagnosed with CPTSD. Everything became a threat. My neighbors, the legal system, the people watching me from the sidelines. It felt like everyone was waiting for me to fail. And when you've lived through intense trauma, when you've lost a child, you already know what failure feels like. You know what it's like to have everything crumble, and you'll do everything to make sure that you never experience that pain again. My brain kept telling me that if I didn't fight hard enough, if I didn't stay vigilant, something terrible was going to happen again. Something I couldn't control, like losing Cadence. To understand how the lawsuit affected me, you have to understand the kind of grief I've carried ever since losing her. Cadence was more than just a baby. I had already imagined her whole life. I saw her running through the house, laughing with her future siblings. I saw her growing up, chasing her dreams, becoming her own person. When she was gone, it wasn't just her I lost. I lost all of those dreams. All of those moments that would never happen. Something inside me has shifted. I am hyper aware of every possible danger, every threat to the children I have left. And that's what trauma does. It rewires you. It tells you nothing is safe, that the world can take anything from you at any moment. So when the lawsuit started, it triggered all that fear, that need to protect my surviving children at all costs. You see, when you've lost a child or gone through anything traumatic, you are constantly in fear that it's going to happen again. Losing My baby made me realize how fragile and unexpected life is. It's a truth that lives in the back of your mind, even when you try to push it away. And during the lawsuit, that truth became the center of my world. I couldn't shake the feeling that if I wasn't vigilant enough, if I didn't fight hard enough, something awful was going to happen to my living children. I was constantly checking on them, constantly making sure they were okay, but it went much deeper than that. It was this fear that maybe, if I didn't fight this lawsuit with everything I had, I could lose them too. Not in the same way, but in some way. One of the hardest parts about living with CPTSD is that it makes everything feel like a crisis. When my neighbor put those cameras up, I lost it. I mean, how can you do that? How can someone direct a camera at someone else's house with private views of their property and children and not think that that's an invasion? It wasn't just about the cameras. It was about the constant feeling of being watched, of being under attack. And every email, text message from the lawyers, every update about the case felt like another blow, another threat I had to defend my family against. My chest would physically start hurting anytime my phone dinged. I became so defensive, even with the people who were trying to help me, like my lawyers or my husband. I was terrified of making the wrong decision and letting my guard down for even a second. As if the emotional toll wasn't enough, the lawsuit had real, tangible consequences. Before all of this, I had contracts with Bustle Media Group. I did videos for Scary Mommy, Tyson, Hillshire Farms, Oral-B, and I was even invited to be a host at VidCon. These were deals that were going to help support my family. I had worked so hard to build these relationships and build this career, and then because of the lawsuit, those relationships disappeared. I had deals worth $2,000 lined up with Bustle Media Group, and just like that, they were gone. I was ghosted. VidCon uninvited me from being a conference host. It wasn't just my reputation. It was my livelihood that was under attack. And I felt like everything I had worked for was slipping away, and I couldn't do anything to stop it. I legally couldn't even speak out and defend myself. And then, as if things couldn't get worse, people I didn't even know started to come after me. A Reddit snark group popped up, dedicated to tearing me apart. Complete strangers, people who had never met me, feeling entitled to comment on my life, my choices, my family. It was devastating at the time. Now I don't even pay attention to the online hate because honestly, the Sam Richardson they're talking about, that's not me. These people don't even know me. So how could they possibly be talking about me? And they're making up scenarios and conspiracies about my life. So who they're talking about is some fake persona that they have built up in their heads that I will never even come close to being. At the end of the day, I can turn the internet off and I am surrounded by multiple people who love me for exactly who I am. I don't care what people who have never met me say. The worst part though, back then, it wasn't even just online. It was happening in real life. I had a 68-year-old neighbor that lived up the street from us, a complete stranger who began stalking me online and harassing me. Not just her, there were other peoples too. People who seemed to enjoy the idea of bringing me down. And when you're already in survival mode, when your CPTSD has you convinced that the world is out to get you, having people actually watching you, it's a nightmare. And the only way to get through it is to disassociate. I am the queen of disassociation. Ask me how I got through multiple court hearings while my videos played. Yeah. Survival mode is a powerful thing, and it's freaking exhausting. I was so caught up in protecting my family, so desperate to keep them safe from every possible threat, that I lost sight of myself. I couldn't rest. I couldn't let my guard down, even for a second. I was running on empty and I didn't know how to stop. But here's the thing. When you live in survival mode for so long, it starts to tear you apart. You can't see clearly. You can't trust anyone, not even the people who love you. And I'm just now realizing how much that time cost me emotionally. I am so lucky to have the strong marriage that I have, because I know there are situations like this that have torn other marriages apart. But if anything, this pushed us closer. I realized for the first time how truly loved I am. I know that sounds silly, but I've never really felt that. When your husband spends $20,000 because you ran your mouth, that's true love right there. I'm still learning how to heal from all of this. Moving to a new place gave me and my family a fresh start, a chance to leave some of the chaos behind. In some ways, it's been better. We're not surrounded by the constant reminders, the harassment, and for that, I am incredibly thankful. But I'm not going to lie to you and say it's been easy. The kids had to adjust to a new school district, adjust to new everything, really. It's been hard, but we're thankful for therapy. The truth is, my CPTSD didn't disappear just because I moved. I still struggle with hypervigilance. There are days when I find myself in high alert mode, wondering if someone is watching, waiting for me to do something wrong. It's like my brain can't fully relax. Even though I know logically we're safer now, there's still the constant fear of something bad happening. That's what CPTSD does. It holds on to you, even when you're in a better place. But here's what I've learned since the move. Healing isn't a straight line. There are good days and bad days. The hypervigilance doesn't go away overnight, but it has gotten better, little by little. I'm working on trusting again, on letting go of that constant need to be on guard. And every day I remind myself that just because some bad things happened in the past doesn't mean it's necessarily going to happen again. And if it does, I can handle it. It's a journey, and I'm still on it. But I know that it's possible to keep moving forward, even when the healing feels slow. Thank you for listening today. This was a hard episode, but I know it's important to share the truth, even when it's painful. I hope by opening up with my own struggles, I can help someone else feel a little less alone in theirs. Next time, I plan on taking you back to the day my behavior warranted me to be held in contempt of court. Stay tuned for that. You can follow me outside the podcast on social media at Living Richardson. Take care of yourselves. I love you.